Hey, IT Nation, Sean Lardo here with another installment / episode of the Wise Up podcast featuring another one of the 2025 Pitch It contestants. I'm on with my co-host, my very good friend, Matthew Topper. Matt, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. How about you? I have my Dunkin' ready to go, and we are set for another good episode.
I've said enough about the Dunkin'. I'm not going to keep talking about it. Everybody knows it's a bad coffee. Yes, off to another good episode coming up here too. Another great guest. But before we bring the guest on, let's talk about what the Wise Up podcast. What is the Wise Up podcast to you, Matt? How about that instead this time? What is it to you?
To me, it's a bunch of calendar invites.
Yeah. Okay, great. Maybe a little bit deeper. Let's get a little bit more deeper into what it is to you.
Yeah, so the Wise Up podcast is an opportunity to show people who have tons of valuable insight to contribute, who are around the channel, who have been there, have experience, MSPs, vendors, anyone with something to share. And these are the people that aren't always on stage all the time. They're not in that row of usual speakers that you know everybody's name. This is a chance to meet people who you wouldn't necessarily meet if you're just wandering around an event hall or just looking down the speaker lineup. And it's a way for just having people who are very smart and have a lot to share and contribute, to share their stories with anyone who's listening or anyone who's watching.
Well put. Very well put. Okay, and today is no different. We brought, as you mentioned, we brought a very good guest. He's become a friend of mine over the last couple of years. Definitely a lot of energy. The funny thing is, in the modern day and age here, we usually meet a lot of people on video first for a lot, and we spend a lot of time on Teams calls with them or Zoom calls or whatever, long before we meet them in person. So I never realized the size of this man until I met him personally last year, and it was like, yeah. Yeah. So he was an MSP. Now he's a vendor, founder, and owner, and I guess CEO he calls himself as well, of Giant Rocketship, which I like the name. So
Yeah.
Without further ado, we might as well bring Dustin Puryear on the call and let's talk to him.
Let's
Hey,
do
Dustin.
it. Let's do it. Now, first of all, yes, I have a little bit of height. I did update my background just for you, Sean.
I see that.
Like it.
Well, I forgot I had a green screen. I was like, oh, let me use my little green screen.
It looks good, and I like that. I feel like it's like a 1990s high school or grade school photo shoot we're about to do there. I think it's great. It's gonna be in the yearbook, exactly.
Yeah.
Can we also point out that Dustin, did you set up that green screen in like a minute and a half? That's impressive.
Well, I do things well, but I bought a green screen that it has a little like a latch for your seat, so you put it on the back of your chair, and so it's a green screen that attaches to your chair, and so it makes it super easy to put it together and take it apart, just for these kinds of events, so I can be hyper professional.
Just in case you need if there's a green screen emergency, you are ready to go.
Well, what's interesting, I take it off because sometimes people walk by my office and I know I look super suspicious when I have like a big privacy guard between me and the monitor. And so one day I was like, I just could feel people wondering what was happening. I was like, you know what? Let me start taking this off of the chair.
Well, they would be right to be skeptical of you and your presence in general. So it's good to put a barrier up.
Oof,
anyway, no,
yeah.
I do appreciate the background. I appreciate you stepping up and changing that all. You look,
it looks good.
It looks so much better and the lighting is good for you right now.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have a little bit of height to me. So Sean, who is not an insignificant man himself, but yeah, it's nice. I will tell you one thing that is very and we're completely off track, but is a little demoralizing is whenever I go to these events and the Dutch show up, because I always feel like I'm going to be the tall guy and then the Dutch. And I'm always like, man, I am a short little small man next to these people. And I'm not even joking. If you've been at these conferences, when the Dutch
Yeah,
show
I know
up,
what you mean.
they're huge. Yeah. Vikings. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they are all tall. The shortest one's like 6'3".
I think their babies are born around 5'2", 5'3".
They come out that way. Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
And that's metric, of course, because that's Europe.
5 meters tall.
5 meters. Not a big
Let's
deal.
get back on track here.
We're on track.
We are on track. There's no real track. So let's get on a different track. The different track is, let's talk about you a little bit more, your background. I mean, I teased to like your background a little bit, but let's talk about how long how did you get involved in the space in the first place?
Yeah, so a long time ago, I worked a couple of startups in the .com era at the tail end of that, and then when the last one I was working for in my youth went bankrupt, I said, you know what, let me try something, and I became a security consultant, and I was just having problems growing that. So after several years, I said, you know what, let's start moving toward recurring revenue. I kind of fell into running an MSP. Hyper focused on that. So I ran an MSP for several years, worked all the roles as I defined them for the team I was hiring, from help desk manager to service coordinator to sales to account management. So I've pretty much worked in every position in an MSP. And so, at the tail end of that, I got to the point where I really enjoyed the solution building inside the MSP. And that's kind of how I got to the vendor. So we can get into like how did I actually transition to Giant Rocketship, but that's my background on the MSP side. Been there, done that.
I think here you transitioned to Giant Rocketship. A lot of our viewers, listeners are the same deal, right? We're engineering type people who like solving problems. How do you go from that to starting your own company?
Yeah, actually, and I always invite people, anybody that has any interest in starting like a solution platform like Giant Rocketship, where we're solving a specific problem with software, feel free to reach out. I've definitely Zoomed with several people off of Reddit and Facebook over time, where they're like, how did you start this? What do I need? Like, what does it look like? Always happy to have these conversations one-on-one and tell you everything I've learned. So what happened for us is, I kept building tools, and one role that I kept struggling with was my service coordinator. That's actually one of the more important roles in your company. You're not going to hire that many of them, but they really can make or break your MSP and your help desk. And I was just really struggling with our service coordinator at the time. I said, hey, let me see, because I was a developer, let me see if I can write up a solution. It was slow and horrible, but it worked. Because she was leaving, and that kind of started the whole idea of, wait, if I can build this, maybe I can really go hard on this and have a really concrete solution. Because the problem we were facing is the same problem that all MSPs face, is where you have more work than people. No MSP can hire all the people that they need, because you have limited resources. You're either going to hire yourselves, or you're going to hire another coordinator. You're going to hire another technician, or you're going to hire another dispatcher. You're always facing choices. And so what I discovered was I had solved the problem for us of we always had more work than people. And so Rocketship is how we solved the problem of not just filling in that role, particularly when we had a gap, but also optimizing the help desk staff so that we didn't have to constantly hire more and more people. We were really able to optimize the technicians and the resources we had at the time.
So how long did you work on this product?
So, I guess as kind of an internal tool, I had it for about 1.5 years. And again, it was super slow, super buggy, very rigid and fragile, but it worked, right? I'd have to go, if somebody got fired on the team, I'd have to go like change a bunch of stuff in the back end, but it worked. And so that gave me enough experience to know, oh, you know what? These things need to be easy to configure. These things I thought were genius are completely useless. Nobody's ever going to use them. And so, yeah, about 1.5 years, 2 years as an internal tool before I transitioned to a vendor.
So it was rigid and fragile. Rigid and fragile. It sounds like Matt.
Yeah, or my ego.
I'm just imagining how stuff like this grows. Like somewhere there's a hard-coded array or like a table in a database or something. It's like, oh man, I gotta like find a way to dynamically update this thing. Um, what made you start wanting to like generalize this and take it to the market, the masses in general, not just internal?
Yeah, so I was going to conferences, and everybody that was on the MSP side, everybody on the vendor side talks about sales and enablement, right? Everybody on the help desk and MSP side talks about tools and tech and how they can make things more happen with their people. That's the two conversations that happen at the conferences. And so I was on the MSP side, and every once in a while I'd go to a conference, I'd be like, oh, I automated X, Y, or Z. And then so I was talking, oh, yeah, I've kind of automated the whole dispatch process. Like now we don't have to have a coordinator because we were small enough that even with Rocketship at some size, you need a human being in the mix. Um, but I would talk about it. Now that's the one thing where everybody said, tell me more. Like, how does that work? How what's the process there? And so that told me, oh, I think I have something here. And so what I did was I turned around and I asked one of the MSPs, hey, look, if I charged you for it, would you pay me if I had a solution like this for you? And within 3 months, we weren't even really ready, but we had an MSP paying us money for the early alpha access to the product.
Hmm.
And so one thing I learned, and this is kind of speaking directly to your people who have ideas and they want to see if they want to do something with the idea, which is build as fast as you possibly can. See if somebody's going to give you money, not kudos, for your idea.
Mhm.
And so we weren't, it was sloppy, it was ugly. We churned a lot of people up at the beginning of the whole process. But, we had somebody that would give us money. And I said, you know what? If somebody's willing to give us money this early into the process, it must be a good enough idea to move forward on. And so that's what really kind of motivated me to move forward with Rocketship.
So basically, you're looking for people to actually invest in their money, put their money where their mouth is, before you really start to
Right.
really realize it, right?
There's multiple paths you can take. One is VC funded, and what I have learned is a lot of times if you're going to go the VC route, you almost don't want to collect revenue because the second you get revenue, people want to look at your books, right? And it changes the dynamics of fundraising. And so either you want to go down the VC route and you want to kind of move quickly on that before when you're pre-revenue, or you want to collect money and you would have what like a lot of people just call customer funded growth. And so we're going down the customer funded growth route.
I really like the money, not kudos line, right? It's such a good way to describe differentiating between a good idea and a viable business model idea, right? There's a zillion good ideas that make no money.
Well, I always forget what the exact quote is, but there's that line which is like a bad idea is worth -$10, and a good idea is worth $1. A great idea is worth $10, right?
Yeah.
Like ideas are nothing, um, and it's all about execution. Because I have no doubt there's a million people that want to automate triage, dispatch, escalation, blah blah blah, all the stuff that we do for coordination. I'm sure there's a million people that have this idea. But I tell you what, there's not a million people out there that are actually executing on it. They might be pilot project, they might have some internal code, but they're not actually doing anything with it, and they're not scaling it. And so it's always the execution that differentiates somebody with an idea versus somebody with the business.
Hmm. So I think in order for you to execute, though, there has
I
to be a
hope that's a dog or a cat. Okay.
dog. Well, the other dog, she messes with her, and then she messes with her, and then you'll hear a bunch of ruckus. So I just separated them. I put her on my lap.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
but thank you for noticing the random errors that are moving around. With but you mentioned about there's a different level though of execute. In order to execute, you have to make a decision. Actually, go and execute. How did you make the decision to finally talking to people while you're being an MSP making money to go and being a vendor making this your sole income? How did you end up determining to say we're going to go do this now? We're going to go execute and actually grow a business.
Yeah, so I started the company, and I was doing the dual hat thing, of course, where I was still testing the market. I had my MSP, and actually just last year, you know, I late last year, I was in the process of like deciding about going 100% full time, and I sold my MSP late last year. And so, I definitely had my foot in both worlds. And there's a lot of vendors out there that have their MSP still, and then they have their tools.
Mhm.
So we're literally neighbors with EmiBot, right? So Darren and all those guys,
Yep.
they still have their MSP and their tool set. And they've had to build their teams around to support that. I'm not capable of doing both things at one time. I've learned that about myself, right? I'm
Mhm.
all in on one thing, or well, actually, what I like to say is I'm going to fail at two things, or hopefully succeed at one thing. But I have to make the choice between those two things. But I know I will fail at both. And so last year I decided, hey, I'm going to fail at both of these things. It's just too much for me. So my MSP went all in on Rocketship because it was growing faster than MSP. Obviously, it's a tool vendor, right? So once you kind of start getting some rhythm, people start recommending you to other people because that's what you want. You want your bubble to get big enough that the referrals and the recommendations can really start taking some of the steam for the marketing, train. And then that's when I made the decision. Once I had enough money coming in that I could mentally, emotionally justify going all in on Rocketship.
I like that.
Yeah, because the MSP did well for me. I had it for a long time, and it bought my house, and it's helped put my kids through school. And I had so much respect for the MSP, and I appreciated what it did for us. But it was time for a divorce, so I got myself a new business, a new younger business.
The-
Is that the
Um,
wrong? Is that a bad analogy? I feel like
It's so
maybe.
good. No, it's so
no,
actually no. There's something to be said about that in general.
yeah, for sure.
The How many people find themselves stagnant in their business,
Yeah.
and they just and that's when you stop scaling, right? What does it take for you to actually change?
Yeah.
There's various ways of changing, right? One could be where you hire somebody to replace you, whatever position you're in, and you take on a different department, right? You go from being the CEO to maybe being the CRO because it's something new for you to work on, which will give you that
Yeah.
it'll reinvigorate you. Or you get rid of it and you move on to a new thing and start a new thing, which is
You're
a
doing
younger
something
version.
new.
Well,
Right?
that's
It's
a
not just how do
struggle.
I MSP better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I never disliked the MSP, but I got bored with it for sure. You know, I mean, I have a new customer success person right now. I'm having to train. You're always going to train your staff, right? But I did get kind of tired. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to retrain this person or this role. I've done this training a million times, and there's a point where you want to. It's like a house. Some people are forever home people. I'm not. I want to move every several years because I get tired of hearing the same creak. I want new creaks coming out of my ceiling, right? I want new sounds
Yeah.
bothering me. And so eventually, you just kind of get bored. And it was a real struggle for me because I had to really think through, why I'm giving up this good thing. The MSP is making money. It's paying all my bills. Am I just going to move on from the MSP? So it was a real struggle for me
Right.
to make that decision. Yeah,
What is it? Comfort.
it was very comfortable. It was very comfortable, but I was a different person. It's interesting. We're going way too hard on the analogy that I had built up, which I regret. But one of the best things I heard about a midlife crisis was, everybody has a midlife crisis. It's a normal process. Some people lose themselves in the midlife crisis, but everybody goes through one. And a midlife crisis is when your 40-year-old self realizes you're living the life that a 20-year-old made the decisions for, right? Like when you're 35, 40 years
Yeah.
old, everything that you've done to that point is based on a decision a 20-year-old made. And at some point you wake up and you're like, are these still the right decisions for me? That's a midlife crisis, right? That's a normal process where you've developed and matured to a different stage of your life. And then you either reconcile that this is the path I would choose today, or this is not a good path for me. And so I think that happens to us in business as well, is sometimes we go through a midlife crisis and we have to make the decision at that point in time, ignoring sunk costs. Is this the best path for me? And for me, as an MSP turned into a vendor, I decided I was ready for a new path. I went all existential there.
Well, you teed up what my next question was going to be. Like, what's different on this side of the world? You're on. I hate to call it the opposite side because we're just different businesses in
The
the same
dog
ecosystem,
side.
really. Right?
Yes.
What's different now that you're on the vendor side? I hate the dark side thing too, right? It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, it is different. I'll tell you this. I sometimes I'll pitch people in a podcast. One of the things I tell them I always want to talk about is what I've learned about sales and marketing as a vendor that I wish I had known as MSP. And the probably the biggest thing, and I knew it at the tail end of the MSP, but it took me a long time to learn it. And I totally understand it now, which is everything is sales. Revenue solves all problems, right? And so that assumes a good culture, blah, blah, blah. But really, revenue solves all your problems in a business. And what I've
Mhm.
learned here is I have to be super sales and marketing focused, and that drives everything. Whereas at MSP, it lets you kind of rest on your laurels. Service companies in general let you get away with more. And in a product business, you don't get any slack from the market. A couple of missteps and you're out of business. In a service business, that's not true. Service business, you can coast for a while and kind of regroup just because of the way service companies work. They don't scale very easily, but they give you a huge buffer.
Mhm.
And so the biggest difference I would say is just my single-minded focus on sales and marketing for good customers, right? You have to have a really well-defined ISP, and the fact that I've learned and I have to live the life that you don't get as much grace as a product or as a vendor as you do as a service company.
Would you consider it to be well? So traditionally, MSPs they only add on one or two or maybe three clients in a year's time, right? And
Your
most of it
average
is
one, yeah.
yeah, right. And a lot of your business comes from more upselling them if you're the existing clients,
Yes. Yep.
right? So it's more of a farming mechanism than you're not hunting, you're usually farming, right? So and where you find as a vendor, you're more transactional, highly more transactional, right?
Hmm.
What does that help you figure out? Like, does that change the process in which you set up a sales structure around or a sales team? Does that change things?
Yeah, now obviously we're all about MRR, just like a MSP. So in terms of long-term engagement, we want to keep churn low. There's a little bit of alignment between the MSP sales process and ours, but yeah, it definitely changes it. I mean, the reality is, if I haven't booked several demos in a week, I'm freaking out, right? Because I have to hit my numbers for this to all be worth it.
Yep.
And when you have an MSP and you're running that MSP for 5-10 years, you have a big book of business. And here's the deal: we've grown. If I were to go back 10 years and look at the growth of my IT company, and then look at the growth of Giant Rocketship's growing so much faster than MSP ever even dreamt of. But comparative to other SaaS companies, I'm like, we got to go faster, faster, faster. It's not fast enough because
Right.
you need customer success to support your staff. I mean, to support your customers, you need more customers. Blah blah blah. It's this big cycle, and so yeah, it's a different mentality that you have for a SaaS company. Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
You want short answers? Just blink twice if you want short answers. Otherwise, I'm always going to
No.
give you long answers. Yes.
Oh, this is great. Actually, I was just going to say we're actually almost out of time. This is, I think Sean will agree, this is one of the better episodes we've had in the past few months. This is really good.
Let's just say it was a great episode. You did well so far.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Good.
far, there's still time.
I have faith.
Yeah, I can talk real monotone if you want. We can just do the rest of the interview like this.
That's a good idea.
Okay, good.
Um,
What is your question, Matt Topper?
so, so Dustin, we always close out the episode with one question, and that is, if you could give advice to our viewers, our listeners, in this case about maybe if they have an idea of breaking out of the MSP world, starting their own business, maybe an engineer who's thinking of doing that, in the form of a habit, like what's something they should start doing or stop doing if they're looking to go down that road?
The habit is to ask people if they're willing to pay for it. Like, that's the best habit you can develop if you're trying to work on an idea for a business. So absolutely, you should be just open about what you're working on, and then just be comfortable getting shot down. And you should just be constantly comfortable saying things that people don't like and they tell you this is not a good idea. And so the habit is just being vocal about your thinking and about what you want to do.
I like
In
that.
terms of like a transactional habit, like, check your calendar every morning, that kind of stuff. I'm a big believer in there's two things I'm a big believer in. One is what I call the 1% rule. And then the other thing is the one thing a day. What's the one thing I can get accomplished today that I could just go home right now if I get it done? Like, what's that one thing that if I did it and somebody called me and said, hey, we need you to come home real quick, I would be like, whew, okay, everything else is on fire, sure, but I got this one thing done. I'm moving things forward. I would say that's a good habit, which is what's the one thing today? And the next thing is the 1%. So the habit is what's something I can do this month that will improve my company by 1%. The problem that people have is they go for the 15, the 20, the 50% return items. And so they fail constantly because it's too big. But if you improve your company 1% per month, compounding, that's what, 15, 16%. If you
Mhm.
can improve your P&L 1% per month, you will outgrow your profit will outgrow your sales effort over time. Right. And so I think that would be the two things that are more transactional.
I appreciate that. I think what I take away from that 1% though is the 15 to 20% and 50% jumps are systemic, not core. Where 1% is more of a strengthening of the core of the business.
Yeah, and it's achievable. It's something that you can help
Mhm.
kind of delegate. Hey, this month we're going to focus on a 1% reduction of our cost.
It's
And
like
people are like, "Oh, we can do that. We can reduce
right,
our cost by 1%."
right. It's like a guy. It's like you would go to the gym that work just their biceps and triceps, but don't work their chest and back.
Don't
And like
skip leg
I'm
day.
so triggered right now. You
I
must have
know,
seen my traps.
I've seen them. Yeah, you need help.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Wow.
oh god, so easy. Yes, that's good. Thank you, Dustin, for that. That was I hope that people that watch us actually take the thing that I think that you said that one of the most important things was ask people if they're willing to pay for it. Like one thing we know traditionally speaking, people struggle with asking for business.
Absolutely.
They
Ask for
present
money.
and
Yeah.
present and present, and somebody's like, "I love it, I love it, I love it." But when it comes time, nobody asks. Okay, well, let's make the next step. Let's get you to buy
Yeah.
or get you to invest.
Absolutely.
And
Ask for the sell. Ask for
yep,
the sell.
absolutely.
And then
All right,
shut up when you close the deal.
Yeah.
bingo. That's a
Yes.
problem for lots. So that is all we have for today, Dustin. For you, thank you so much, man. Matt, is there anything else you want to add or take away from this?
No, I think the other thing is get used to hearing no, right? It's tough, especially for you data-driven engineering type people. That's a new thing for us.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say be suspicious if you're getting too many yeses, honestly, because until money is associated with that yes, a lot of times people are just too nice. People are
Buyers are liars. I learned that a long time ago. I heard that line a
absolutely.
long time ago. I never understood what they meant. But anybody's like, yes, 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 that's great. Yeah, we want that. We want that. But then when it comes time for an agreement, typically people that are like, this is amazing, off with very little effort
Mhm.
of educating them as to why it is. Without you showing real value, but they think it's amazing, they're never going to buy from you.
Yep,
They're just
absolutely.
lying. All right.
Well, thanks for
Well,
having me on. I really appreciate it.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for coming on.
All right. And that's all for now. Peace out, Girl Scout.
Bye,
Peace.
guys.